Testing. Alaikum salam. What's that? All right. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. Okay. Okay, so it's on? Oh. Alhamdulillah. Okay, so quick recap for last week's class, and then we'll move on to today, inshallah. So we talked about وَلَمَّا بَلَغَ أَشُدَّهُ آتِينَاهُ حُكْمًا وَعِلْمًا وَكَذَلِكَ نَجْزِي الْمُحْسِنِينَ. And we talked about how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's qadr plays a very important role in the way the events pan out, how they end up happening. And at the end of the day, no matter what people have planned, no matter what small differences we think we can make, at the end of the day, Allah has all the power and all of the control. And we talked about one important thing in this ayah. The Mufassirun say that he was around 33 years old. So the ages, they differ, but we're going to go with he's 33 years old. Now, one of the important things about that is, as we'll come to see today, that this is the peak, or around the peak of a man's life. Okay, then وَرَاوَدَتْهُ الَّتِي هُوَ فِي بَيْتِهَا عَنْ نَفْسِهِ. And in this, we started to discuss how, last week was just the seduction itself, how the wife of the Aziz went and tried to seduce him. And how did that happen? We have to understand the whole picture. It's not just about what's in the one ayah, but it's the entire context in order to fully understand and appreciate what is going on. So she went, وَغَلَّقَتِ الْأَبْوَابِ. And غَلَّقَتِ الْأَبْوَابِ teaches us what? That, one, this is on a different form than what it usually is. Usually it would be وَأَغْلَقَتْ, but this is غَلَّقَتْ. And that teaches us two things. The amount of times that she did it, and how severely she did it, how much shiddah she had in it, how much effort she put into this. So they say that she either had she had one door with 7 locks, or they had 7 doors, but the point is she fortified the security so that she could do whatever she wanted to do. قالت هيت لك, come to me. And then we talked about هيت لك being from a different language, and it's not even originally Arabic. The reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose to put this is to show how demeaning and lowly of a sentence the wife of the Aziz had said. And he said 3 things. قال معاذ الله. This was in reference to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I seek refuge in Allah. إنه ربي أحسن مثواي. Indeed, my master, meaning the husband of the Aziz, according to the opinion we're going with, has treated me very well. So this is the haqq of the khalq, the haqq of the creation around. And the third one, إِنَّهُ لَا يُفْلِحُ الظَّالِمُونَ. This is the haqq of the nafs. So the one who commits a sin against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then this person is doing dhulm to themselves, doing oppression to themselves, is doing some wrongdoing to themselves. And as a result, they will not be victorious, they will be losers in the hereafter, and they will be in the hellfire. So he said these 3 different things, talking about the 3 different relationships that a person has when pushing her away. وَلَقَدْ هَمَّتْ بِهِ وَهَمَّ بِهَا. And then we talked a little bit about this, or whether or not Yusuf alayhi salam would have had real desire towards her. And that's going to come up more today. And then we ended off with the 7 in the shade. In this ayah we were discussing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will have only 7 people on the Day of Judgment, and one of them, that is the one that is most applicable to us for this story, is the one that a woman of good character, meaning a high-ranking person, high-ranking woman, and one that is beautiful calls a man to do zina, and he says, I fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he pushes her off. This person would be in the shade of Allah, of Allah's throne on the Day of Judgment. Okay, so for today's ayat. Okay, can you go until إنك كنت من الخاطئين? واستبق الباب وقد القميص until إنك كنت من الخاطئين.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. واستبق الباب وقدت قميصه من دبر وألف يا سيدها لدى الباب. قالت ما جزاء من أراد بأهلك سوءا إلا أن يسجن أو عذاب أليم. قال هي راودتني عن نفسي وشهد شاهد من أهلها إن كان قميصه قد من قبل فصدقت وهو من الكاذبين. وإن كان قميصه قد من دبر فكذبت وهو من الصادقين. فلما رأى قميصه قد من دبر قال إنه من كيدكن إن كيدكن عظيم.
Okay, so today we're going to start off with واستبق الباب. Istabaqa means to vie for something or to try to reach a goal before somebody else. To try to reach a goal before someone else. And it's the same word that is used previously when the brothers and Yusuf alayhi salam are discussing racing. When they're discussing racing. And qaddat is in reference to tearing something. Okay? But the way that it's torn is torn vertically. So if you have a shirt, it's torn in a way where it's being torn up and down, not side to side. Number one, here's the same intention, same action, different intentions. What's happening here? When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, وَاسْتَبَقَ الْبَابِ. وَاسْتَبَقَ الْبَابِ. It means that they both raced towards the door. So they're both doing the same thing. And if you're already familiar with the story, then you know what's going to end up happening. That her husband is going to show up. So let's say that you, from the outsider's perspective, is looking at two people running at you. What's the first thing that's going to go on in your mind? There's a problem. What kind of problem? So, okay, maybe someone's in danger. Okay. Someone's running away after doing something. Okay. So these different thoughts can come into your mind, and it's not completely clear what a person is doing as soon as you see them, right? It's not completely clear. For example, right now, all of us, if two people ran up the stairs and started running towards us, we would have no idea why they're running towards us. We would have no idea what's going on between them. None of this, we would not know. One of the lessons that we learn here from Wastabaq al-Bab is that two different people can be doing the same exact action, meaning what's perceivable from the outside, but their internal intention is unknown. We can't know. We can't know what other people are doing. So in this situation, one is fleeing from an aggressor and the other is trying to catch their victim. Right? In this, Yusuf alayhi salam is running away from someone who's trying to do something to him. Whereas the woman is running after him to catch him. So sometimes people will do certain things, and from the outside it may look genuine. It may look good. But we may not know the full intention on the inside. We may not know if they have evil intentions, they have negative things, they have something bad planned. And the same goes for the other way. Sometimes a person might do something bad to us or bad to someone else, and their intention was to do something good. And maybe it was an accident, or maybe it was from ignorance, or maybe it was a genuine mistake, and something else ended up happening. Sometimes, or as a general rule of what we can learn from this, is do not be so quick to judge another person just because of some good that you see. Just like from before, they wouldn't judge a person based on their words, or how many things that they said, or how many prayers that they prayed, or how many days that they fasted. But it was what they showed of their, what their reputation was made of, what they were known for doing, good things or bad things, how that person was fully as a person. And this is an important lesson. And this is one of the reasons why if you see a person praising another person, oftentimes they'll say the ayah from the Quran, وَلَا نُزَكِّي عَلَى اللَّهِ أَحَدًا. Because we don't want to give our recommendation for another person. We don't want to say that this person is perfect just by our praise of them, where in truth Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows something evil about this person. So at the end of the day, we abstain from giving full giving up full, how do I say this? We don't give them a 100% end-all be-all description of even praise. Because at the end of the day, only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows everything that's going on. Okay. وَقَدَّتْ قَمِيصَهُ مِن دُبُرٍ. So she cut the shirt, she tore his shirt from behind, from the back. Okay? And then this is going to come up in the next two ayahs about how this plays out. وَأَلْفَ يَا سَيِّدَهَا لَدَى الْبَابِ. And all of a sudden, Sayyidaha, her husband, was at the door. Now this is important. Now this is interesting. Al-Faya means that it happened, and it happened kind of all of a sudden. They just saw him there. And it means that it happened suddenly to the point that they didn't expect for him to be there. Now, again, what I said earlier was you have to understand the scene and the build up to this in order to understand and give proper right to this ayah, to this scene. When she closed the doors and locked the doors and put so many layers of security, making sure that no one would catch her, she thought that she was safe for the rest of the time. She thought husband's at work, or he went out somewhere, he's not gonna come back. And she thought she could do whatever she wanted. And then all of a sudden the husband came back. Why? We don't know. We probably will never know. Because this was clearly not what she had planned out. And this was not something that was just done on a whim. One of the things that we discussed last week was this was not the one and only. Did we discuss that last week, or does that come today? That's coming today. Maybe you don't know this already. When we talk about khadli'in, what does that mean? That she tried to seduce Yusuf before. This is one of the opinions. We'll get there when we get there. Al-Faya. So came all of a sudden. Then Allah says Sayyidaha. Okay, so two things here. One, the word Sayyid means what? Master. Okay, so her master came. And Sayyid, when speaking about Abd and Sayyid and Rab, then the one who's on the lower level calls the one at the higher level Sayyid, the master. The Prophet ﷺ is a Sayyid of all of Bani Adam on the Day of Judgment. It was common practice for a wife to call her husband Sayyid to show how his his relationship to the house is. Not master in terms of I own the slaves inside of the house, but the leader of the house. Why does Allah say Sayyidaha and not Sayyidahuma? Her master, but not their master. Her husband, yes, but the word Sayyid is also used for a slave. Why does Allah say Sayyidaha and not Sayyidahuma? Sorry? Who was? Allah was the master of Yusuf? Okay. But let's go back a little bit, a couple of classes, when we talked about Yusuf alayhi salam being bought. Was that a proper sale, transaction? Why? Why was it not a proper transaction? He's a prophet, okay. And he was sold for little coins, okay. His legacy? It has more to do with him being a prophet. Yusuf alayhi salam was not an actual slave, because he couldn't be a slave. He was still a free man who was captured. He was not considered an actual slave. He was a prophet, the son of a prophet, the son of a prophet, the son of Khalilur Rahman. So it is improper for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at this point, or it is improper to describe him in this category. So therefore Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when describing the scene, says Sayyidaha, not Sayyidahuma. He is not his slave in this situation. And also, the context of this is that she has done something wrong, not they both have done something wrong. So, Sayyid in this, being the master, being the one of authority in the house, if you're doing nasab of both of them to Yusuf alayhi salam, if Yusuf and the wife to the master, then what's happening here? It may come off as a way of reprimanding Yusuf alayhi salam. He has nothing to do with any mistake. So this is Sayyidaha. He is only her master. Alright. وَأَلْفَ يَا سَيِّدَهَا لَدَى الْبَابِ. Now, قالت ما جزاء من أراد بأهلك سوءا إلا أن يسجن أو عذاب أليم. Now, she wanted to be a little poetic, going back and forth on how to describe. She says, what is the punishment? All right, what is the punishment, or what is the payback for someone, like the Bayyina translation here is, what payback should there be other than jail or excruciating torture for someone who wanted to do something vile and shameful to your family? Okay. Man arada bi ahlika su'a, wanted to do something vile and shameful to your family. Where in the sentence does it say seduction or the other things that you can imagine the meaning of it would be? Well, the answer is it's not there. Right? It's not there. The answer is it's not there. Why? Why is it not there? This is very interesting. Take two children, for example, who are fighting about something, okay? An adult comes in. One says that the other hit them, okay? If two boys, Two 8-year-old boys, they're playing, and then their dad walks in on them, and one boy says, "He hit me." What is the other boy going to say? He hit me first? Okay. What else could he say? Okay, what else? No, I didn't hit him. Okay, what else? I'm looking for specific wording. His life? He's lying. Okay, he's lying. Okay, good. So that's one thing. He could say he's lying. What else? Think back. Think about your interactions with kids. What would a kid say? He started first? I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything. What does that mean? When you hear that, I didn't hit him. He didn't say that. He says, I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything wrong. A person, when they're put into a position of being accused, when they are truthful, oftentimes what will end up happening is that they will describe the situation and be able to repeat it back to you and say, no, I didn't do this, because they are truthfully innocent. But when a person is caught red-handed, then what happens? They don't know what to say. Sometimes a person would get ashamed. Sometimes a person would just look down. Sometimes a person would try to come up with an excuse. What did she do? She went straight for the kill. She said, مَا جَزَاءُ مَنْ أَرَادَ بِأَهْلِكَ سُوءًا إِلَّا أَن يُسْجَنَ أَوْ عَذَابٌ أَلِيمٌ. What is the payback or the punishment for someone who wanted to do something bad to your family? We're going to keep talking about this even more than this. But right now, for this part, what are we trying to understand? She was more than just lustful. She was also cunning. She was also cunning. Okay. Now, what else, number 4 here is lessons from the speech. What else can we understand here? So there's two opinions on the meaning of ma jaza and what this ma means. Okay? And most likely you've heard of just one. That's what the translation is based on. You can say ma jaza as negation. There is no punishment for someone. And those who said that, they said the reason for saying that there should be no punishment as a negation, there should be no punishment, is because of her love and lust after Yusuf alayhi salam. So even then she was describing her. But we're not going to go with that one. The other is a rhetorical question. The other is a rhetorical question. So she is making this up and saying this rhetorical question for what reason? This is what we're going to talk about. Okay. The first part is, let's say that. She mentioned two things. What did she mention? The two things in this ayah. This is a good practice for reflection over the Quran, by the way, if you were with us for that Friday night. This is a good practice. So let's practice through this. What two things are mentioned in this ayah as a punishment? Jail or torture. Okay? Jail or torture. These are the two things. Which one comes first? Jail. And then second is torture. Why? What is the significance of that? What is the significance of mentioning jail first? Is it the preferred option? I think someone give me an answer. Is that the preferred option? MashaAllah, good answer. She said no. It's not the preferred option. Actually, that is a very good point. Imprisonment would be a longer journey, right? Imprisonment would be a longer journey. Okay. Yusjan is you are going to be picked up, put in handcuffs, and thrown into a jail. Adabun Alim is torturous punishment. You will be in a lot of pain and it will hurt. She wants the lesser painful option. Why? So this is actually one of the reasons. She knew that she was wrong. She knew that she was wrong. So in good conscience, she couldn't do this to him. What's the other reason? What is the other reason? She wanted access to him. She probably wouldn't get access to him in a prison when she is a woman. What was the other reason? Let me say it in a different way. I don't want you to be hurt that badly. So I'm going to give you the easier of the two punishments. What does that teach you? What are the? She was in love with him. She was in love with him. She was in love with him. So why would she want him to be tortured? Right? Okay. That's the first thing that we learn from this. Secondly, she said, قالت ما جزاء من أراد. من أراد. What is the punishment for someone? For someone. What is she not saying? She's not saying his name directly. Very good. She's saying in a very general term. Someone. Why? What's the reason? Same reason as I mentioned earlier. Someone can say it though. Maybe she doesn't want to lie. That's one part, but she was ashamed. She was ashamed of her actions. She was trying to hide some of the stuff, and not accuse Yusuf alayhi salam because she knows that he didn't do anything wrong. She knows that he didn't do anything wrong. So she was ashamed to throw him under the bus like that. All right, that's the second one. Number 3. What's number 3? Illa an yusjana. What does that mean? What does it mean when he says, when she said illa an yusjan? What lesson do we learn from that? The meaning of an yusjan, here it just says other than jail, but it's deeper than that. Imam al-Razi says that for you to use this phrase, an yusjan, it means for you to be imprisoned for only 1 or 2 days. It's a very light punishment. It's not for a long time. Contrast that with what Fir'aun says to Musa alayhi salam. Also in the Quran, it says, أَن يُجْعَلْ مِنَ الْمَسْجُونِينَ. That is for a long time or forever. But here, أن يُسْجَن, like I mentioned at one point, a verb is indicative of what? What does a verb mean as opposed to a noun? A verb is an action. But what does it mean? What lesson do we learn when we see a verb instead of a noun? Very good. It's time dependent. It's time dependent. So at some point, it will end. This is the meaning of this here. Okay. Now, what is the scene? Yusuf alayhi salam, the wife of the Aziz, and 2 people are at the door. قال هي راودتني عن نفسي وشهد شاهد من أهلها إن كان قميصه قد من قبل فصدقت وهو من الكاذبين. He said, because she's essentially trying to accuse him. She's essentially trying to accuse him, and now it's his turn to speak. So he says, no, she tried to have me give myself to her. And we talked about rawadat last time. To just translate it as seduction isn't enough, because it will come back again when the brothers are talking about their youngest brother. So she tried to have me give myself to her. All right, what does this mean? Number one, self-defense versus exposing. Is exposing other people's sins allowed? No. In case a specific situation. Okay. So exposing someone else's sin is not allowed unless there is a call or a need to do so. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says that He hates for any evil to be mentioned except for a reason. Right? Can't think of the ayah off the top of my head. Yeah, what is it? لا يحب الجهر بالسوء إلا من ظلم. Except for someone who has been wronged. So this is that one situation. But it doesn't end there. What does Yusuf alayhi salam say? راودتني عن نفسي. She tried to get me to give myself to her. How much information is there in that? How much information do you learn that of what transpired inside of the home based on his statement? Everything. Okay. What did he actually say? Let's go back. She locked the doors, put extra levels of security. She's trying to seduce him. So, what has she physically done in order to achieve that goal? Yeah, yes. But that we understand that from the locking the doors. She put herself in isolation. Physically, what did she do to herself? She beautified herself. She beautified herself. Then she came. What did she say to him? Come to me. Or in the other qira'ah, I'm ready for you. Then she tried to get him, and then he ran away. He didn't mention all of the details. He could have mentioned every single part that happened. He didn't do that. Why did he not do that? Because it is imperative to defend yourself when you are being accused of something. Not every single time, but especially in a situation like this where you have where there's a chance for your reputation to be impacted. And especially for him, he had he had a situation where he could have been imprisoned or punished for what had happened. So to defend himself, it was necessary at this point. But to give all of the information was not necessary. He said what needed to be said. She tried to have me give myself to her, which puts all of the onus on the woman and frees himself from any blame. So then what happened? Then a witness came in. وَشَهِدَ شَاهِدٌ مِّنْ أَهْلِهَا. Who was this witness? A baby? Okay. Someone from the family of the lady? Okay. A cousin or an uncle or a brother? Okay. So there are two main opinions on who the shahid was. And then there's a third opinion as well. Imam Razi mentions it's much weaker. The weak opinion is that it was a shirt in and of itself. But the two well-known opinions are that it was a baby who spoke out of the cradle to defend Yusuf alayhi salam. And the second well-known opinion that is more relied upon is that it was a cousin or another family member of the wife. So her and the Aziz were together when they came to his house and they saw this. So he witnessed what happened and he said, "In kana qamisuhu qudda min qubul." If the shirt is ripped, remember vertical rip from the front, then she is telling the truth and he is a liar. But if it's ripped from the back, then she is lying and he is truthful. Now, it is very interesting. Imam al-Razi, he brings this in. I'm going to read this directly from him. He says, "We heard he says it's in defense of the first opinion. This is the cousin of the wife, not a baby." He says, "We heard the commotion behind the door and a shirt being ripped, but we do not know which of you was in front. If the shirt is torn from the front, then you are truthful, and the man is lying. But if it is torn from the back, then he is truthful, and you are lying." Okay. So they heard something outside. This is what Imam Razi brings. They heard something outside, and then they heard something outside, and then they opened the door. They came inside, and they saw what was happening, and then this conversation happens. Okay. So let's talk about something just a mind exercise, just a thinking exercise. Imam Razi brings us some interesting points about this, and I want to discuss this. If it was a baby that was speaking, he says this, then the entire situation would not make sense. The whole situation would not make sense. I want you to think of a reason why. The information that you need is here in this ayah. You want to give a name? Yes, that's the exact argument. If it was a baby, what would the evidence be? It would be the baby speaking itself. The evidence would be the baby speaking itself. There would be no reason to give a circumstantial evidence, like whose shirt is torn from which side. Do you know for a fact who is right or who is wrong in this? If someone's shirt is ripped, let's say not in this situation. Let's say a person comes up those stairs right now and his shirt is ripped from the front. Okay, he has a vertical tear in his shirt. Is the first thing that in your mind going to be that he tried to seduce a woman and then she hit him and ripped his shirt? No. So the shirt being ripped in and of itself is not indicative of anything. Give me an explanation that exactly what happened, in this situation, exactly what happened, but Yusuf alayhi salam was actually wrong. He was the perpetrator. He was the aggressor. All the information is the same, but the conclusion is that he's the aggressor. How could you justify my statement? I'm telling you that his shirt was ripped from the back, but he was still an aggressor. That's not what happened. This is mind exercise. This is just for us to think. Justify the reasoning. That's your task. Justify the reasoning. Okay, he tried to protect her from? Who tried to protect? She tried to protect him? Sorry? She tried to protect him? protect herself from him. Good. Yes, that's exactly it. Yes. Right? So let's just come up with a situation, like a scenario. He is attempting to hurt her. He turns around to grab something, and she hits him with something. His shirt rips. He's trying to pick her up, and she takes her hands and rips the shirt from the back to try to get out. Plausible or no? Yes. Opposite situation now. He says, if the shirt is ripped from the front, then he's lying and she is truthful. And if she is truthful and he is lying, and if it's ripped from the back, then she is lying and he is truthful. What situation could Yusuf alayhi salam been the victim, but still his shirt got ripped from the front? He tried to push her away, and she grabbed the shirt. Good. You understand this now. So this in and of itself is actually not conclusive evidence. This is what we call, like in Sharia, like a judge when they would be deciphering between sets of evidences. This would be a qarina. It wouldn't be a. What's the other word we learned last week? Absolute evidence. What? Burhan. Very good. So it wouldn't be burhan. It would be a qarina. Okay. And this is what happens nowadays with other types of barahin, other types of qara'in, which are supporting evidences instead of evidences in and of themselves. Do you know what some of those are today? Like in a court of law, what would be a supporting evidence? Circumstantial evidence, such as? DNA, good. What else? Pictures, videos, especially right now in the day and age of AI and being able to. I saw this picture of Trump praying one day, so these are still considered supporting evidences. Okay. Yeah. Yes. Oh, that's an interesting observation. Yeah. So he's saying it as if you can't see the shirt. Now, why would that be a reason? What is the reason for this to happen? This is a very good point. But there's an answer. He might have known her character. This is going to come up in the next ayah. But it's not the answer here. Yeah. Okay. We say shahid. This is the cousin of the wife. Okay? The cousin of the wife. Who is the Aziz? He's a high-ranking government official who has power in the land. Okay? So he's a man of respect. He's a man of authority in all of Egypt. They are inside of his home where he has the respect and the authority. For another man to make a claim about what happened inside of his home is wrong. So he is saying, and one thing that you can imagine in this, I skipped over it earlier, but one of the things about وَأَلْفَيَا سَيِّدَهَا لَدَى الْبَابِ, and then he's there all of a sudden, and then she sees him, and then starts talking, is that he is probably dumbstruck. He's standing there with nothing to say, speechless. What is going on? He has nothing to say. So, instead of just throwing an accusation out there or saying that this has happened or that happened, he helps the Sayyid, the Aziz, come to his own conclusion and saying, this is the most logical way that we can deal with this in finding out what has actually happened. because now they're both debating, they're both arguing. Right? So as a result of the arguing, of trying to figure out what actually happened here, we can only use whatever we see and we can only judge from the outside. So that is, he says, if the shirt is ripped from the front, then she is telling the truth and he is lying. But if it's ripped from the back, then she is lying and he is truthful. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, it's because one of the things that like Imam al-Razi mentions that he heard the shirt ripping from the outside. But if Yusuf alayhi salam is standing there looking at them, then they can't see the tear in the back of the shirt either. Right? Okay. Yes, I'm getting there in in this ayah. I am getting there. It should be number 4 there that says exactly where your question is going. Just let me get there in 1 second though. Okay, so what is the benefit here that we can gain from this? Allah saying وَشَهِدَ شَاهِدٌ مِّنْ أَهْلِهَا, that she is from his family, or he is from her family. Yes, most likely he would be in support of her, and at the same time, there is no reason for us to believe that this person has anything against her, because he's from the family. So you could take it in one of two ways: either that he's going to be biased towards her, or he's so angry, hates her, and maybe hates the Aziz, so hates the family, and wants to throw her under the bus. But no, he is from her family. So what makes the most sense is that he is going to be on her side. So if he's saying something this unbiased, you should take what he is saying. Okay. So, early indicators of what happened. What are some of the early indicators of what happened? The man, the Aziz and the witness, they both come to the house and they both see what's happening. Okay, they're running towards the door. They stop. What, from our imagination at least, can we immediately see that leads us to believe that something was going on here and that Yusuf is innocent and that the woman is guilty? He mentions a few things, and these are interesting. So, one, it is not proper for a slave or someone in the position of a slave to show this much insubordination to their master. That would be the woman when she's commanding him to do something, and then when the Sayyid comes inside and is essentially asking what's going on. He cannot just do whatever he wants. If someone was properly in the position of a slave, then they would be required to do whatever was commanded of them. But in this situation, Yusuf alayhi salam knew better because Allah taught him what the consequences of zina were. So he didn't engage in it. Number 2. Yusuf alayhi salam was in the front and she was in the back, and he was closer to the door. Right? Because that's how the shirt gets ripped. He is in front of her. And they were headed towards the door. How do we know that? I mentioned that. He comes to the door. All of a sudden he's right there at that door. So Yusuf is in front and he's right there at the door. Another indication that Yusuf alayhi salam was trying to free himself of the situation. Also, like we mentioned earlier, she wants to seduce him and she wants to do all of these different things. Then the bare minimum here is that she's going to beautify herself. Why is a free woman woman who is the wife of a high-ranking government official beautifying herself in the absence of her husband and when the slave is at home. That again is almost incriminating in and of itself. Number 4, he says, they observed Yusuf alayhi salam's behavior over a long period of time. He was with them for how long? Decades. For decades. And they never saw anything like this before. They never saw anything like this from before. But, as we're going to see in the next ayah about khata'in, she had a history of doing some stuff. She had a history. Also, when she accused him, she used vague terms, like we discussed in the previous ayah. Everything was vague. She never said, this is what happened, or he tried to do this to me. Which is again an indication that all of the truth is not being told. And there is an opinion, and the last one is something that honestly at the end of the day we can't really know. But it is that the husband was impotent, meaning he wasn't able to perform intimacy. And so as a result, it is logical that the wife seduced Yusuf because she couldn't fulfill that same role with her husband. So he would have known this, but she, which would make her guilty, which would make her seem guilty. At the end of the day, this is something that we don't have complete evidence for. Okay. Then, what was that question from before? Who was the witness? And then, why was he called a witness? A witness is someone that sees, observes, and then reports. So, there's a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, he saw the moon. It was a full moon. And there's a companion with him. He asked the companion, do you see the full moon? Is there anything wrong with the moon? Is there anything that's blocking your sight from the moon? He said, no, I see the moon perfectly. He says, then testify based on this same conviction. Testify, meaning you are a witness to something, and you can only testify to something if you are a witness, witnessing something as clearly as you can see the full moon. That is what a witness is. So then why does Allah call this person a witness when he didn't even see, he didn't even see what was happening? What's the answer? He didn't. He did not see anything happening. The door was locked, and then he entered into the home. But Allah still calls him a shahid. Was he noticing it from before? So that's one of the opinions. There are 3 opinions as to why Allah called him a shahid still. The first is because Allah was the actual shahid. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was the actual shahid, the actual witness who witnessed everything that was happening. And then this person, this other person, when he said these words about how to come to the conclusion, he was speaking the truth. So as a result, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him this title of being a shahid, but this was extra to what his actual role was. He didn't actually witness it, but he was given this name. Why? Because it was in line with what Allah wanted. Number 2, the second opinion, is that because he gave a rule, a universal rule. He cited a universal rule. And as a result, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala called him a shahid because he was telling them to examine the evidence. And this is the universal rule. So as a result, out of how much truthfulness there was in that statement, Allah called him a shahid. That was the second opinion. And the third opinion is that she had some sort of a history of seduction. She has a history of doing things that are improper in this manner. So as a result, the cousin knew that these things were happening, and from his own prior knowledge and prior experience, he made this claim that there's a possibility that she has done something wrong, so let's examine the evidence. So those are the three opinions. Allah was the actual shahid. I gave him the name because of the truth. He said the truth. Number two is he cited a universal rule that that whatever, don't come to your conclusion without examining the evidence. And number three is he knew he had in the past of her history of seduction and doing improper things, so he quoted based off of that. Okay. Now the end for today, inshallah. We don't have too much in these two ayats, so we'll be able to finish, inshallah. فلما رأى قميصه قد من دبر قال إنه من كيدكن إن كيدكن عظيم يوسف أعرض عن هذا واستغفري لذنبك إنك كنت من الخاطئين. Okay, two repeated themes. There's two things that have been repeated in this surah so far. Two things that have been said two times. What are the two things? I'll give you the easy one. The shirt. This is the second mention of the shirt. What is the other? We covered this ayah. Fast forward? It is, but that's a very regular thing to mention in the Quran. Party? Plotting. Plotting comes multiple times, but no. The women? I mentioned it earlier. فَاسْتَبَقَ. Both of them, فَاسْتَبَقَ الْبَابِ. What did they do? They raced towards the door. When did they come before? When the brothers were racing. Same thing happened two times. Same thing happened two times. There was some kind of a race that happened, or a race that was mentioned, and then the shirt was involved. In the first one, they said, وَنَسْتَبِقْ كُنَّا نَسْتَبِقْ وَتَرَكْنَا يُوسُفَ عِنْدَ مَتَاعِنَا. We were racing back and forth, and we left Yusuf with our possessions, and then a wolf came and ate him. So then the shirt of Yusuf alayhi salam, which was untorn, it was untorn, and then they brought it to Yaqub as evidence that Yusuf was eaten by a wolf. Then now, فَاسْتَبَقَ الْبَابَ. وَاسْتَبَقَ الْبَابَ. They raced towards the door. And then the shirt, which was actually torn, served as an evidence for his innocence. So before the shirt, they both raced, and the people were racing. And then the first one, the shirt, was used as an evidence that Yusuf alayhi salam was alive. Because Yaqub knew he was alive. Their father knew he was alive because it was not torn. So the shirt served as a proof that the brothers were lying. And now this shirt, after the race towards the door, was used as a proof that the woman was lying, and that Yusuf alayhi salam was truthful. This is a repeated theme, and it's going to come again one more time at the end of the surah, inshallah. Okay, then he says, Yusufu a'rid an hada. Yusuf, forget about this. Okay, let me read the translation. So when he saw his shirt torn from the back, he said, this is yet another example of the scheming of you women. Your womanly schemes are truly incredible. Yusuf, put all this behind you. And you, woman, must beg forgiveness for your shameful deed, because you have truly been at fault. Okay, let's break this down now. Yusuf put all this behind you. Yusuf, move on from this. In a sense, what it means is Yusuf, stay silent about this. Don't talk to anyone else about this. Why does he single out Yusuf alayhi salam? There's 4 people there. Only one person is doing the talking. Why does he not mention the other 2? Why? Good. So the wife would not be willing to mention it because she's so ashamed of what she did. And the cousin is trustworthy and he is close to the family. He doesn't want the reputation of the family being ruined. And then he himself is not going to mention it to anybody because of how shameful would that be, that his wife is going and doing this stuff. So he says Yusuf and speaks to Yusuf alayhi salam alone. Yusuf, a'rid an hada. Okay. Then he says, وَاسْتَغْفِرِي لِذَنْبِكِ. Seek forgiveness for your crime or for your mistake. Ooh, good question. Good question. So there is a difference of opinion on who is doing the talking here. When he says Yusuf a'rid an hada wastaghfiri li dhanbiki innaki kunti min al-khati'in, it's either the shahid or it is the aziz. Either the shahid or it's the aziz. If it's the shahid, then he gave the argument first about the shirt being ripped, and then immediately he gave the conclusion as well, that when they saw the shirt, he said, indeed this is a scheme of you women. And then said, Yusuf, forget about this. Don't say anything to anyone. The other is that it was the Aziz talking. And the Aziz said to him, Yusuf, don't tell anyone else about what is going on. Exactly who it is, we can't know. But it seems more likely that it's the Aziz that is doing the talking. Yes. So literally, a'rid means to turn your back. To turn away from something. The translation here, one of the things I mentioned in the very first class, this is the Bayyina translation, and it's often different than a lot of the other translations that are there. And it's heavily also built on the Imam Razi's Tafsir and multiple different things taken into consideration. So sometimes it comes off as different. Here, when he's saying a'rid an hada, it's not just a physical leave this behind you. It is forget about what happened. Don't mention it to anybody else. Okay, next. وَاسْتَغْفِرِي لِذَنْبِكِ. Let's talk about that. Who is she seeking forgiveness from? Allah? What else? The Aziz. These are the 2 things. So, are these people monotheistic? Do they believe in one God? Do they even believe in Allah? Why? Or how can you believe that? There's one God? Okay. That they were Yahudi? Okay. They were not Yahudi. This is taken from their language. The language that they were speaking, I don't know what language they were speaking in Egypt. It wasn't Arabic. Perhaps it was Hebrew. Maybe there was Hebrew influence amongst them, but these people were not Hebrew. The Hebrew people was Yusuf alayhi salam. So, do they believe in one God or no? Short answer is no. They did not believe in one God. Most societies that didn't have the Prophet would eventually stir away from the fitrah and not believe in one God anymore. But what we'll learn in maybe like 2 years from now at the pace we're going. But when Yusuf alayhi salam goes into the jail, what does he say to the people? أَأَرْبَابٌ مُتَفَرِّقُونَ خَيْرٌ أَمِ اللَّهُ الْوَاحِدُ الْقَهَّارُ. Are multiple gods better? Or Allah, Al-Wahid Al-Qahar, the one and the overpowerer? So this is a society, most likely they believed in multiple gods. But just like the Quraysh, they believed in multiple gods and they put Allah all the way at the top. So if they were seeking forgiveness, perhaps they were seeking forgiveness from Allah. Perhaps. That's one opinion. The other opinion is وَاسْتَغْفِرِي لِذَنْبِكَ. If this is the Shahid speaking, then it makes sense that he is saying, you woman, seek forgiveness from your husband for your crime. So this was one of the arguments of the people who were in favor of the Shahid being this person. The Shahid being the speaker in this situation would say. But still, I don't see a problem with the Aziz himself saying "Wastaghfir li dhanbik" to ask forgiveness for himself, because what he's saying is, show your remorse for the crime that you have committed against me. That's essentially what he would be saying. All right. Now, innaki kunti minal khadi'in. What does this mean? Innaki kunti minal khadi'in. There's two things here to take into consideration. The first is that the meaning of the understanding that we get from this sequence is that she has made mistakes in the past. This is not a one-time thing. This is not a one-time mistake. This is one of the things that we understand from this. Even more than that, there is a very interesting thing. So Imam al-Zamakhshari, he brings this in. And he says, you look at the Arabic of this. He says, "Innaki kunti min al-khati'in." Khati'in is a description for who? Sinners, okay, but who? Society? Who? Ladies? Would you describe ladies as khati'in? How would you describe them? Khati'at? No? We say mu'minina and mu'minat. Right? Sadiqina, sadiqat. Khati'ina, khati'at. So if innaki kunti min al-khati'at, why not? Yeah. Why khati'in? Yeah. But why? Why khati'in? Why not khati'at? So Imam Zamakhshari brings he makes this argument, and he says it's this, like what you mentioned of taghlib. So if someone was to describe this gathering, they would only use male, like masculine, plural. Like for example, they would say hum, because there's so many more men than women. So they would say hum, right, to describe us. In understanding innaki kunti minal khati'in, you are coming from a family and a lineage of men who have done wrong deeds. This is the argument Imam Zamakhshari makes. And one last thing here. There's a quote he mentions by Abu Bakr al-Assam. He says, the husband did not exhibit much ghayra for his wife. So ghayra means this protective jealousy that a man has over the women in his family. And this is the responsibility of all men in Islam, and it is a very natural thing that coincides with the fitrah. And he says this man did not exhibit much ghairah. Because he saw his woman, his wife, who was all, prepared to seduce someone. She is the one who was at fault. And then at the end of the day, when everything points to the wife being the one who caused the problem, he says, Yusuf a'rid an hada wastaghfiri li dhanbik. Nothing else. He admonishes her with his words, and there's nothing else. But that is not the way that the believers behave. You don't allow this behavior to go on at home with family members. And the opposite, the one who allows this, is called a dayuth. And the meaning of this is the one who allows his women folk to do whatever they want, especially fahisha. And the Prophet ﷺ has said that the one who does this, the youth, will never enter into Jannah. Is a shahid, yeah. It could be. It's indicative. But like I said, at the end of the day, this is not something that we could ever know. Another thing that, a counterpoint to this, Yusuf, the shahid, he doesn't do anything. The aziz, he doesn't do anything against his wife. Why? Take like the current political climate and what's happening in the world. You have a high-ranking political figure who is involved in a scandal. Do they want anyone else to know outside? No. So in order to preserve their own reputation, they will push everything under the rug. They will try to forget about it. They'll do whatever they can so that the news doesn't get out. So at the same time, some evidence can be used for it, but at the same time, the same evidence can be used against. Allahu a'lam. Okay, so let's end with this, inshallah. Raising the youth. Yusuf alayhi salam was 7 when he left the home. Not left the home, when he was snatched away from his home and thrown into a well. At this point, he's 33 years old. Okay? At this point, he's 33 years old. The opportunity for zina comes. From the time of puberty up until right now, he has these natural feelings, these natural inclinations inside of him. Yes, Allah has given him the knowledge of zina being haram and what the consequences in the hellfire are, yes. But he is still a human being. He still has these desires inside of him. And for how long was he not able to satisfy those desires? Still he did nothing. Still he did nothing. He ran away from her. What is the lesson here? The importance of raising children well. He was with his father only until 7. And after that, his belief, his reliance on Allah, all of this, coupled with not wanting to fall into zina, all of that came together with only 7 years of being with his father. Only 7 years of being with his father. Number 2, the dangers of khalwa. The Prophet ﷺ, he said that no two people are together, meaning a man and a woman are never together except that the shaitan is the third amongst them. Khalwa is a very, very straightforward means to haram. Khalwa means to segregate yourself with the opposite gender. Meaning you are in a different part, in a room, closed doors, closed windows, no one else can really see you, and you have no accountability with the other people that are around you. This is when the shaitan comes. The shaitan is the third person, and this is when those thoughts come inside of your mind to do something haram. Limit your interactions with the opposite gender as much as possible. This is the lowest thing that you can do. This is the simplest thing you can do. Lower your interactions with the opposite gender as much as possible. If you need to communicate, make sure that it's purposeful and that you have a good intention behind that conversation. And once the purpose has been achieved, walk away. This is it. There is, and then past khalwa is even more, in which is zina of the body parts. Zina of the hands, zina of the eyes, zina of the ears. How does this happen? When we touch the opposite gender. going in for a hug when they're not a family member, or putting their hands on you, shaking their hands even. Looking at a person, looking at someone of the opposite gender, is a form of zina of the eyes. And these are very, very serious things, because all of that may seem small. It may seem small, but it's not small. Because these are small steps that the shaitan takes to overcome us one day. And the more we normalize and allow today, will eventually lead to our own downfall tomorrow. And that is the way that shaitan works. That's why when we mentioned before, Allah says, وَلَا تَتَّبِعُوا خُطُوَاتِ الشَّيْطَانِ. Don't follow the footsteps of the shaitan. When you follow footsteps, you will eventually end up where the shaitan is. Number 3, understanding the reality. Now this is for understanding the reality of the situation that we are in right now by understanding Yusuf alayhi salam. Okay, what do I mean by this? The wife of the Aziz had so many tactics, an entire plan. She seduced him, she closed all of the doors. He was inside of her home, right? Which removes any possibility of suspicion or anything else that would say that she is making a mistake. She encouraged and instigated the situation. She said, I am all yours. And he could have been too scared to do anything about it, because she was the master and he was in the position of a slave. Now, after understanding all of these situations and how easy it could have been for him to fall into zina, our understanding here is not just the conclusion. It's not just the conclusion, oh, Yusuf did it, you should be able to do it too. That's a surface level, easy explanation. It's an easy cop-out, honestly. What you should be thinking about is Yusuf alayhi salam at that time had all of these factors that could have led him to falling into such a heinous sin. What do we have today? What are all of the different problems that we have today? How easy is it to meet up with someone, to get in your car and to go somewhere? How easy is it to get a hotel room? Back then they didn't have hotels, and you could do something with someone else. How easy is it that when you are out of the house for 8 hours a day that you could develop a relationship with someone and your own family wouldn't know? How easy is it to have a conversation with someone with all of the passwords on your phone and no one else being able to access it? No one knows. No fear of public perception. Our phones have access to the most disgusting material out there. All of that is available at our fingertips. The time right now is even more difficult in abstaining from this. And as parents, it's more important to understand how many difficulties there are. Because sometimes, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us and protect our families, it is easy to fall into this now. And even easier than it was before. So it's important to understand the context that we live in, the harms that are around here, so we can try to limit the harms, and we can try to do something to help them. And the best thing to do is to get the kids married young. The best thing to do is to get them married young. Because the older that they get, the more these frustrations will develop inside of them, and until they get to a breaking point, it'll just keep festering, and then they will have no outlet other than doing something haram. Except who Allah has mercy on. Continue making dua for them, but create a way of making their life easier as well. Okay, and then the last part is the shaitan's plan, which was, shaitan has been around for how long? 10, 15 years? No, 1447 years? He has been around since even way before Adam was created. Adam alayhi salam was created, and a jinn, who Iblis is a jinn, he was raised to the rank of the angels because of how much he worshipped Allah. So imagine how long that took. way before Adam. And then Adam was created. And now we're all the way over here. Shaitan is much older than you. And Shaitan knows how to trick you, how to create a plot so that you fall into it. Your objective is to do what? To trust in Allah and seek refuge in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's it. Don't try to trick the shaitan, and understand that the shaitan can misguide you so easily unless Allah helps you. This is the lesson to take away. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect all of us and our families. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from these major sins and these minor sins. هذا وصلى الله على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. الله